Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, The Americans, episodes 2 and 3, Pests and the Midges, and Meredith Placko is back.
Thank you.
To join us for this.
I've missed my my fake Russian conspiracy.
Yeah, that's true. There's so many real ones now. So you know, we've got. I'm assuming this whole thing with the bugs is looking like, if not an entire season long arc, it's going to get us through the first half or so. So we have, you know, they're digging more into the whole entomological aspect of this and figuring out where it's going and where these things are coming from, and you know, having to go to Oklahoma City, poor things.
Oh God, I know. How
Just
terrible.
kidding, Oklahoma, you're lovely.
Aw, I was in Oklahoma once. They have good beer. No, so what I find interesting is we dealt with the biological aspect almost all of last season and a little bit again this season.
Yes.
And I feel like we just keep exploring a very similar theme, but this one. This is interesting because it caused me to actually do some study into has America or any other country actually tried to do crop warfare before? And I was, unfortunately, it was like 2 a.m. last night when I was going through this Wikipedia hole, as you do. But it's really, there is an actual history to this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, this show is generally pretty on top of that stuff, so I sort of take their word for it, but you're right, I should do some reading and find out what the deal is. So that's been interesting, and I think the specifics of dealing with the Defector has been really interesting because, you know, obviously Philip and Elizabeth have gone back and forth about like how much do they maybe like America a little and how much are they maybe not always crazy about what the Soviet Union does, although they are always on mission and stuff.
Yeah.
So to hear this guy so vocally complaining, I think on the one hand it chafes, and on the other hand they're like, well, he's not entirely wrong about some of this stuff, you know.
Right?
Like Tuan is more clearly a like true believer and not having it, and they seem a little more.
Yeah, Tuan's and Tuan comes from a very different aspect. He's coming from the Vietnam side of things where his family coming out of the Vietnam War. I mean, that's you're talking something completely different. Russia's own government hurt the Russian people, but they said, they blamed it on America, where Tuan had firsthand experiences, as far as we know, with America. So it's interesting to also see how his ideology affects things very differently than the Russians. I'm also really curious to see, we're going to see Philip break down a little bit more as he witnesses the other father's like more hatred for America. But it makes me wonder if Elizabeth is going to try to befriend the son and the wife and try to turn them as into operatives as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, they clearly are still. They don't hate the USSR the way the dad does.
Exactly.
So that's
and now with her Korean friend out of the picture, we've already seen that Elizabeth does want some sort of other connection to a friend that isn't just the job. Sure. She needs that. So I wonder if this could be positioned in such a way.
Maybe, although they're not in DC, right? This is like a whole other city they're having to go to, so that might be a lot harder to juggle, but who knows? So the Paige stuff continues to be interesting. She is still involved with Matthew Beeman, even though that is fraught with potential risk. I love the scene where they talk to her about the whole, where just the thumb and forefinger. It's like, and that's such a simple thing, and we're so used to spy movies being all about like, it's a pen that's also a bomb, that's also a Morse code, whatever. But just this little trick, this little psychological thing to kind of keep yourself from divulging
or getting too intimate, because it was such a great metaphor of having the talk.
Sure.
I mean, like it's like their version of the talk is about spy stuff, but let's be honest, it's not even thinly veiled for sex.
True.
And it was great. Though of course in the third episode, her little hand creeping up there, like, oh, Paige.
Well, the teens, they get hot and bothered. And Stan, meanwhile, has himself a new girlfriend, scrunchy lady from the gym.
I like her.
No, she's so far so good.
I don't trust her. I think everyone's.
I know. And he is, he's a Fed, so anything is possible certainly. But I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
But I'd also like to see Stan happy.
Yes, I know. He's a good guy. We have Philip's long lost son, sort of slowly making his way through, from Yugoslavia to I guess Austria now.
I feel like this is a metaphor for something. I'm not quite sure what, but I just have a feeling like his slow journey. It's I forget, much like Henry. I forget about Misha.
Oh. Poor Henry cannot get a break on this show.
Maybe he's working on another project.
Could be. Or maybe the character is going to turn out to be like a sleeper cell spy for somebody else the whole time,
I know.
What else is good? I mean, there's Martha Martha is alive and well and shopping for groceries
and being
in Russia.
very discerning about it. Like, I love how shrewd she was when she was picking up each thing, like looking at the expiration date. And I'm like, that's Martha for you.
Oh, see, I couldn't tell if it was that or if she's just like still learning how to read Cyrillic.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I felt like she was being very shrewd to me.
Either works.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. She's also on Feud now, so I'm glad she's getting out there.
What does she play on Feud?
She plays Robert Aldrich's like Gal Friday.
Okay, awesome.
So she drops a few occasional fun one-liners.
Yeah.
So the Oleg thing continues where they're trying to blackmail him and he's not even playing along and is like taking these meetings. And he has that great confrontation with the grocer lady.
Yeah.
About where she's getting her stuff and yeah, it definitely, you get from that scene this whole business of like, I'm not doing anything that everybody else isn't also doing. Oh, and have a bag of tangerines. Like this is so endemic in the process, this black market and the who you're getting your stuff from and stuff like that. It's like, I really, you're gonna come to me for this? Like the whole system is broken.
It is, yeah, and that's, and I think it's gonna be an interesting journey for Oleg. I wonder how, I can't wait to see his reaction because, he's listened to the tape now. He's heard that his conversation with Stan was recorded and him and Stan had a friendship. They had at least an understanding. So I wonder how betrayed he's gonna feel from that.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be at some point we're going to see Stan making some attempt to be like, it's not me.
Yeah, exactly. Like he swoops in and like airdrops into Russia and saves Oleg in some great action sequence that'll never happen on the show because that's not what they're about.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't know if there's any way for the two of them to even communicate at this point. But yeah, I would hate to think that Oleg is going to pin that on Stan. We haven't seen. Obviously they had to shoot Hans in the head, poor guy. But we haven't really seen Philip and Elizabeth kill somebody in a while. So
well, the end of 3.
That's what I'm saying. So that was a big spine cracker.
And that was hard for me because I feel like they're at least sometimes a little bit more remorseful about killing like people who aren't directly doing bad things.
Sure.
And it shows the evolution. What are we 5 seasons in?
Yeah.
That they're just like done. We're just done.
Well, and I think also this one they're taking personally. They still have family in Russia. They still feel connected to the homeland. And so for this guy to even if he's doing it innocently and he's just doing his job and just following orders, he's still the one who's creating these super bugs that are going to like destroy the crops.
Yeah,
so I don't think they felt
and this
that bad
is attacking the people. It's not about the government. It's attacking the actual citizens of Russia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would love to know more about the woman in the car in Oklahoma. Like, is there an agent in Oklahoma just waiting around in case something happens? Did she have to come up from Dallas? I want to know.
Everyone has a backstory.
Yeah.
What I found, okay, so this is just me being weird. So when they're in the lab and there's 2 scenes with the midges and what looks to be moths.
Yes.
And it almost looked like they were being projected onto a screen and it wasn't really moths in a setting.
Yeah.
And for some reason, because like the way it was the patterns and how they flicked in and out, it was really distracting to me because it looked like a projection. And I just wanted to bring that up because I just want to bring that up. I found it weird while watching it.
It did stand out to me a little. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I was like, there's something weird about how this is being put together. And I guess maybe it's hard to get that many,
And that's fine. Anytime you don't have to use live creatures, I'm okay with that. But I felt like I was in like a science center in the 80s.
I don't know if they're still around. There was a band in the aughts called the Moth Wranglers.
Oh,
so maybe they got a gig on this show.
Yeah.
All right. So and of course now also the Paige thing we forgot to mention that this is finally a mission they feel like they can bring her, talk to her about. Obviously they'll leave out the killing the lab guy part, but I think they even mentioned that. But this is sort of like with the humanitarian aspect of
it plays on Paige's emotions where she wants to help other people. That's the whole reason she started up with Pastor Tim to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah. So and so it's interesting that we've got and it's so funny to watch the evolution of how you had the restaurateur wanting to recruit Paige and them saying no, and now she's sort of in on it anyway, and Frank Langella being very kind of Okay, sort of coolly receptive to the whole thing as it plays out. And so who knows, maybe the long game is they do want to recruit Paige, and this was all the pieces required to get her there. You know?
I also have to say I love the music. Now that we're like into like early mid '80s, the music choices.
I don't know that I would buy that a Midwestern bowling alley in 1984 is going to play more than this.
No,
there's a thing. You know, my husband always talks about how he goes, when you liked, you know, New Order and like the Smiths in the 80s, you paid a cultural price for that. And now every every 80s movie, like the Frat Party, they're blasting, you know, the Smiths like no. I was at that frat party and they were playing Mr. Mister. So
I've been a big fan of the Smiths for forever, and even in the like late 90s to 2000s when I was hanging out in goth clubs and industrial clubs, still listening to the Smiths was considered weird by all my not gothy scene friends. So imagine the 80s.
Yeah, so they play a little fast and loose with that. I did love the opening of the. I forgot to mention last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about the season premiere. The use of Devo's "That's Good."
Yes,
definitely that was right on point. And Paige's Esprit sweatshirt.
Oh my God, yes.
That was a trip back in time.
Also, they found like apparently Bennigan's don't change ever, because that scene in the Bennigan's, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah, I think they're all locked in amber with with the stained glass chandeliers and everything.
It brought back memories.
So yeah, another great season of Americans. Please come back next week. We'll have more for you then. Thanks.